Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's kick off today's video with a neighborly nightmare. Imagine mowing your lawn like a normal human, only to have the renter next door call the cops because it's too loud. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Stop mowing? Okay. My neighbor rents out their lower suite to their adult daughter, her partner, and their young child. You'd think this would be a quiet little arrangement, but no. This woman is the living embodiment of main character syndrome. From the day she moved in, it's been nothing but drama. She's one of those people who seem to think the world revolves around her personal preferences and that everyone else is just an annoying background character ruining the vibe. I can't so much as breathe near my front door without her having some kind of meltdown. She screamed at me multiple times to stop making so much noise while I'm doing completely normal things like mowing my own lawn in broad daylight. She's even gone so far as to call law enforcement on me for the heinous crime of cutting my grass at 4 p.m. on a Saturday. The audacity, right? Apparently in her mind, that's a personal attack worthy of government intervention. Meanwhile, despite all her self-important complaining, she refuses to help her elderly parents who own the property with their yard work. These are senior citizens who clearly struggle to keep up with the maintenance, and yet she lounges around doing nothing while they fend for themselves. Being a decent human being, I've kept doing what I can. I continue to cut half of their lawn and completely maintain the area below their retaining wall. No biggie, it's flat and maybe a quarter of the size of my own front yard. It's never been a problem for me, until she made it one. At the end of May, everything came to a head. I was trimming the lower area of the yard when she completely lost it. She stormed out, full tantrum mode engaged, screaming at me to stop immediately and threatening to call the police. You know what? Fine. I stopped right then and there, texted her mother, the homeowner, and explained that since her daughter was clearly very upset, I wouldn't be mowing or trimming that area anymore. Polite, professional, completely washing my hands of the situation. Now each week I mow right up to the property line and no further, and let me tell you, that yard's starting to look like something out of Jumanji. The grass is nearly knee-high in spots, the weeds have developed their own government, and the dandelions have unionized. Last week, as I was finishing up my perfectly trimmed, pristine lawn, she had the nerve to come over and ask if I could please start mowing their lawn again because her mom was mad at her for letting it go to hell. With the absolute straightest face I've ever managed, I looked at her and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. It's just so loud I wouldn't want to get in trouble. You know how these things go." The look on her face was priceless, somewhere between disbelief and that dawning realization that maybe actions do in fact have consequences. And today was the cherry on top. She dragged out this monstrous gas-powered mower, clearly far too big and heavy for her to manage, down 9 stairs to get to the lower yard. It took her nearly half an hour to mow what normally takes me 3 minutes. She had to stop and start that mower at least 5 times, and every time she pulled the cord, I swear she aged a year. I sat on my porch with a cold drink, enjoying the show like it was front-row entertainment. When she finally finished, dripping with sweat and huffing like she'd just run a marathon, she stood at the bottom of the stairs, staring up at the daunting task of dragging that mower back up. It was like watching someone try to summit Everest with a backpack full of rocks. I would have offered to help, but hey, I wouldn't want to interrupt her peaceful afternoon. After all, wouldn't want anyone calling the police again. Funny how quiet things get when people finally have to handle their own problems. The neighbor's adult daughter has proved to herself that her shouting orders at others doesn't work in the way she thinks it does. A lesson learned. And our second story. Supervisor asked if I'd change my holiday request. No, thank you. This year started off great. I landed a new job in primary care with the NHS, and for the first time in a long time, I genuinely felt like I was doing something meaningful. Patients constantly praised me for being helpful and kind, and within 6 months, 6 different patients even brought me chocolates or flowers as a thank you. As cheesy as it sounds, I thought I'd found my calling. Things started to get challenging about 4 months in. My colleague Trish, who originally trained me, had to take extended leave for health reasons. That left me as the only person handling our specific workload. Some days were tough. There were 1 or 2 times I ducked away for a quick cry, but I stuck with it. Over time, I became confident, took everything in stride, and earned genuine respect from both patients and coworkers. When I heard Trish was returning, I was relieved. I figured I'd finally get a breather. Oh, how wrong I was. Trish isn't exactly beloved at our practice. She's blunt to the point of cruelty, often rude to both patients and coworkers, and has racked up multiple formal complaints. There are even negative Google reviews mentioning her by name. Despite this, she's been there for over 20 years and management just turns a blind eye. While she was out, I tried to stay neutral despite the constant bad-mouthing from others. I defended her. I genuinely believed she couldn't be that bad. When she returned, I quickly realized why everyone disliked her. From day one, she started retraining me like I'd forgotten how to do my job, even though I'd been handling everything solo for months. I tried to brush it off at first, but eventually I had to bluntly remind her that I'd managed just fine without her and didn't need a refresher. That's when things soured between us. We kept things civil for work-related conversations, but otherwise avoided each other until a few weeks ago. I had a rough week dealing with a particularly difficult patient who called 3 days in a row. I just needed a vent, and thinking it counted as a work-related discussion, I unloaded to Trish. She agreed the patient was difficult, told me I'd handled it correctly, and that was that. Or so I thought. Minutes later, I realized I'd forgotten something and went back only to catch Trish mid-rant trash-talking me to 2 colleagues. She called me soft, a whiny cow, and said I needed to grow up and get on with it. She looked like a deer in headlights when she realized I'd heard it all. The next day, she spent the whole time sucking up to me. Too little, too late. Then came the sweet part. My supervisor messaged me about the extra holiday day we could take around Christmas. Trish was on annual leave, so she hadn't been asked yet, but from previous conversations, I knew she wanted the last few days of the year off to spend New Year's Eve in Europe with her adult child. And after the way she'd treated me, I went full petty. I requested the exact day I knew she wanted, plus a couple of my own annual leave days, giving me a nice little block of time off. My supervisor approved it all. That meant Trish wouldn't be able to take those days. There wouldn't be enough cover. I also knew she'd already booked her hotel and flights and was just waiting for official approval. So, tough luck, Trish. Update. Turns out Trish threw an epic tantrum when she found out. She raised such a fuss that my supervisor had to involve the partners, actual GPs, just to settle it. I was asked if I'd consider switching my day off. I politely declined, but apparently the partners decided Trish would get in her way. It's exactly the kind of drama I'd expect from her. Today, she barely spoke to me, which honestly feels like the best outcome. I may have lost the battle, but at least I wasted a lot of her energy and time throwing that fit. And hey, I still have my Christmas break booked, just not the exact day she wanted. Small victories. Please tell me your plans are to sit at home with a cup of tea and do nothing, then make sure she finds out about it after the fact, just to really twist the knife. And our last story. Brad didn't know I could field strip an M4 and a Subaru. I'm a 29-year-old engineering student and a Navy vet. Cars have always been my thing. I grew up helping my dad in the garage and have done almost every repair imaginable myself, except the stuff that requires big specialty equipment like tire balancing or engine hoists. A couple of months ago, after returning from a year-long deployment overseas, I pulled my old but reliable Subaru WRX out of storage. Naturally, I did a full maintenance sweep, changed all fluids, replaced spark plugs, belts, air filters, and even swapped out the winter tires for summer ones. Everything was running like a dream. The last thing on my list was to get the tires balanced. Simple enough, right? I made an appointment at a local auto shop here in San Diego, one of those big chain places with massive glass windows so you can watch your car getting worked on. Since I was planning to run errands afterward, I threw on a sharp outfit, heels, slacks, and a fitted blouse. When I arrived, the guy at the counter, let's call him Brad, barely made eye contact, but immediately started throwing around buzzwords like free safety inspection and high-performance balancing package. I declined the extras, asked for a standard balance, and settled in near the window to watch. Brad pulls my car into the bay and immediately starts scribbling on his little notepad while 2 techs work on removing the wheels. Curiosity piqued, I stay put. 10 minutes later, Brad saunters back over with a grave look on his face. "Miss, I'm really concerned about the condition of your car," he says, dramatically glancing at his notepad. "It's actually unsafe to drive right now." I raised an eyebrow. "Really? What's wrong with it?" He goes down this ridiculous laundry list. Belts are cracked. I'd literally replaced them last week. Oil's filthy. Just changed it. Brake pads dangerously thin. Checked and fine. Alignment's so bad my tires are ruined and need to be replaced. You get the idea. He finishes by telling me the car's so unsafe that he legally can't let me drive it off the lot until the repairs are made. "How much would that cost?" I asked, already suspecting the worst. He smirks and says ballpark around $4,500, but since it's an import, parts could be more expensive. Mind you, my hood hadn't even been opened. I kept my cool, smiled politely, and asked for a written quote with everything he said needed fixing. He happily handed it over, complete with his signature and the shop stamp. I stepped outside, called the local police, and explained the situation. Turns out vehicle repair fraud is something they've been cracking down on lately. An officer promised to show up immediately. 10 minutes later, right as Brad was circling back around to help me call a tow truck, the officer walked in. Brad turned pale as a ghost. The officer calmly asked me to confirm everything, which I did, handing over Brad's handwritten estimate like it was Exhibit A in a courtroom drama. Brad started stammering, trying to backpedal, but it was too late. The officer asked to see the shop's manager, who, funnily enough, suddenly wasn't out for the day after all. When he arrived and found out what had happened, he looked ready to fire Brad on the spot. The officer informed me that Brad would be arrested for attempted fraud and that I'd be getting my tire balancing done for free as part of the shop's apology. As Brad was being handcuffed, he had the nerve to shoot me a glare and mutter something under his breath about entitled women. Yeah, Brad, entitled enough to know my rights and have you escorted off the premises. Never underestimate a woman who knows her way around an engine and the law. I am absolutely savoring the image of Brad's face when the officer walked in, because nothing deflates a con job faster than the sudden appearance of someone with a badge and a clipboard. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.